Dear God, I am ready for your help in removing from me the defects of character which I now realize are an obstacle to my recovery. Help me to continue being honest with myself and guide me towards spiritual and mental health. Amen. It is with much love and gratitude that the group welcomes Donna J to come and share with us. Donna, over to you.
Thank you, Purdy. Thank you for inviting me. Hi, everybody. My name is Donna, and I am an alcoholic, and I'm also addicted to cocaine. I feel like I know so many of you. I get a chance to share space with you in different spaces in AA and also in CA. And I feel like right here, right now, is an extension of what I've been doing all day. I feel like I've been talking about 6 and 7 all day, death of self and reliance upon God, which is definitely different than just believing in God. So I want to set the tone for all of us, and I just want to share a prayer that I find brings me to the essence of 6 and 7. So step 6 and step 7. Step 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character, and step 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. So let's get centered. It's still. And this is a prayer of surrender and divine use, because when we surrender, we do become available for God. Beloved Father, infinite Spirit within, I come before you with a humble heart, knowing I was chosen for this work, not by chance, but by your divine will. You have called me to lead, to awaken those still asleep in the illusion of self, to guide them gently to the light that lives within. Help me to remember this life is not my own, it is yours. Empty me of self, of pride, fear, ambition, and control. Strip away all that is not you until my heart is pure, open, and ready. I surrender my will to yours. Live your life in me. Do your will through me. Be yourself on earth through this vessel, even as you are in heaven. May those you draw to me see not me, but your light within me. May they be led not to me, but to you. Let my thoughts be your thoughts. Let my words carry your truth. Let my presence reflect your peace. I choose now to embrace your cause with my whole heart. Prepare me for the greater day. Train me for the greater service, and make me worthy of the joy of communion with you face to face. Amen. So before this call, I've been still quite a bit lately, because there's a lot of new things that are going to be happening in my life, a lot of uncertainty, and the only way I know how to deal with life so life doesn't deal me is to be still and lean in. And in the leaning in today and knowing that I was going to share about 6 and 7, like how do I get to 6? Step 6 is smack dab in the middle of these steps. And I was moved to thank all of the teachers, spiritual and human. I reached out to Lorraine, who took me through the work in Al-Anon. I reached out to Adrian, who took me through the work in AA. I reached out to Mike, my current teacher. I reached out to Loretta, who's in this meeting, who was my first teacher. I thanked Rashid and Sydney, who was Loretta's husband, who's no longer with us. Because if it wasn't for God sending these messengers in my life, I wouldn't be willing to die to self so God can live life in and through me. If I hadn't been born an alcoholic that brought me so much pain and misery and despair, I wouldn't be willing to walk into the unknown, to this new life In the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, we keep reading new. So I think what gets me to 6 is a desire, because I saw the God, I saw the light in these teachers. I've always been a seeker. I always knew that there had to be something more. I didn't know what it was. Drinking and using drugs made me lighthearted in the beginning. It made me forget that there was something missing. So everything became a party. Everything just became fun. Growing up in New York City, it was a perfect place to be, especially in the 70s, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And it was fun. I never could really achieve the things that I wanted to achieve. And it's interesting because, we come and we're of the world, power, money, and prestige. And I wasn't very successful at that because of my obsession to alcohol and drugs interfered with any success I was ever going to have. Couple that with my low self-esteem, the two things kept my world little. I share a lot about, we go through the big book over and over again, and each time we go through the big book over and over, there's a new awareness, reading the same words. And when I read when Bill Wilson said, I made a little money, that hit me so hard because my whole life was just little. The step 3 promises, we set aside our little plans and designs. My mind is not wired to be expansive. It's too afraid to be expansive. It needs to know. It needs to know how long, who's going, when. I don't know how to be still and just be okay not knowing. But I get to do that when I know that if I lean in, all the answers are right there with me. I lived a life in the beginning going to A-list parties and having a good time, and my world got smaller and smaller. It got darker and darker. I tried to commit suicide because things inside of me and things outside of me were becoming unbearable. And then on August 5th, 2000, the first miracle happened, but I didn't know it was a miracle because my mind doesn't like me to see the things of spirit. I just took it for granted. I was no longer obsessing over alcohol and drugs. Like, how do you take that for granted? The very thing that had me wanting to take my life. When the student is ready, the teacher appears. I'm at a meeting and somebody introduces me or leads me to Loretta. And I sat across from a table with her and her husband, and they were taking men and women through the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, alcoholics, addicts. And I felt like I was giving myself permission to finally discover what was wrong with me, because I didn't know what was wrong with me. I did not want to live the life that I was living. I knew I was smart. I knew I was attractive, but I was living my life in complete opposite of that. And I didn't know how to explain it. So not being high was very uncomfortable because I was faced with reality and it was too hard to deal with. All the things I wanted in life were getting harder and harder to hold on to, harder and harder to achieve. So I convinced myself that they weren't important, and I lived in the world of at least and made myself feel that it was okay. Having the marshals put the lock on my apartment, I didn't even know how to deal with that. It was too real. So I got in a cab and I went and I got high. That was my solution to everything. I did not know how to deal with life. Because I was telling myself it was too hard to play catch up. So why bother? I saw people having families. I started seeing people having like really great relationships. And I just thought it was out of reach for me. So why bother? So I just believed a lie that where I was at was where I was at. And I sought out people who were living life the same way. I had a host of fair weather friends. I didn't have anybody I can go to the movies with or bowling like that. Like those weren't the kind of friends I had. I only had get high friends. August 5th, 2000, I was surrendered. I didn't stop drinking. See, if I have a deep first step experience, I'm going to have a deep 6 and 7 step experience. It's just that way with me. And I've had deep first step experiences in other areas besides just alcohol. I had it in relationships. I had it with nicotine. The obsession to alcohol and drugs was removed. The obsession to obsess over a man was removed, and the obsession to smoke was removed. I did not stop smoking. I did not stop thinking about this person. There was something deep down within that created a major shift in my entire being. See, the thing that I bring to the deal is desire. I've always desired wanting something that I didn't know what it was. That's not totally true. I knew I wanted love, but I had no conception of love. I didn't grow up really experiencing love. My dad drank, he gambled. My mom was very angry, so she's concerned about her feelings and her emotions, so she was not available to be loving. My dad, selfish and self-centered. When you're not bringing the paycheck home, that's kind of selfish, because what happens if they take the house? So it was that kind of childhood, but I always craved this wanting to be cared for in a way that I wasn't finding it. I latched on to friends. I latched on to men. But because I didn't know how to communicate, I didn't know how to be connected, I was only giving parts of me and they were giving parts of them. There was never any real oneness. And I get to see by doing this work that most of us live our lives like we're separate from God and separate from others. I grew up seeing that everybody wanted what they wanted, and if they didn't get what they wanted, it was a punishment. My parents punished. I went to Catholic school. The teachers punished. If you didn't do this, you got a bad grade. If you didn't do, everything was like, if you don't do what people say, there's going to be a repercussion. So I didn't grow up feeling any true love the way I get to receive it and give it today. So perhaps that's what I was looking for. I was looking for love. I was looking for connectivity. I was looking to feel oneness. I was looking to just be. I think that's one of the biggest gifts I've got in recovery, is the ability to be. And it's only 2 letters of the alphabet, but damn, did that not take a journey. And so I wind up here where I'm willing to die to self so God can live life in and through me, and I am willing to be a vessel. I'm willing to believe that I just sit here in human form, and I am relying on the God within to carry the message that I need to share. I didn't start off believing or feeling this, but I was around people who were feeling and believing it. And you hear me talk very fondly of Rashid, and he would say, Don, it's not about catching up, it's about catching on. I would be in the car with Loretta, her husband Sydney, and Rashid, and I'd be in the back, and I wouldn't talk. I'm like, who are these people? There was something that they had that I just sat there in awe, how did I, what is this new life? And, I remember they would come and pick me up, and my mom was so accustomed to me being with, other, you know, drunks and drug users that there was something about the three of them that she trusted me in their company. That's what this demonstration looks like. There's this light that shines. There's this presence that's felt. And so we're at step 6, and that's when I'm willing to let go of everything, the illusion of life. My beliefs, my thoughts, my emotions. That's all I had all my life, or my beliefs, based on my experiences, based on the experiences of other people that have been passed down to me. I love the set aside prayer. God, set aside everything I think I know, and please let me see the truth, because my ego only sees what it wants to see, that it's only interested in self-preservation. It sees you as a threat. It sees you as somebody I need to compare myself to compete with, not to connect with, not to learn from, not to walk with. And so step 1 was really profound for me, because I was able to see everything I couldn't see with my thinking mind. It was very profound. Like, how am I now just seeing this? How am I now just seeing that next time was not going to be different than the last time? Why was I able to believe that? Why, when I tried to commit suicide, my mind didn't warn me and say, Donna, what are you doing? And it hit me that my mind is not very dependable, and my mind is not my friend. And so I get this opportunity to try something new. Be willing to believe in this power that's going to give you saner results. What do you have to lose? See, if you look at the willingness, open-mindedness, and honesty, those are spiritual principles. So this is just my belief. It's my desire. It's my seeking that meets up with the willingness that comes from spirit, the open-mindedness that comes from spirit, the open-mindedness that comes from honesty, that I'm able to be led. Because my mind is not willing to do anything unless it knows for sure what's going to happen. What time, who's going, how far. I'm not willing to do a lot of things, especially in a program like this where it's just a suggestion. Like, nobody's making us do this. So, but why are we willing to be led? Maybe it's spirit leading us, and open-mindedness. Every time I do inventory, there's one of the character defects that still crops up is judgment. My mind still wants to judge everything on what it believes. And then this honesty piece, I never knew how to be honest, because my whole life was contingent upon what you thought about me. So I was going to say and do whatever it took for me to be accepted by you. So perhaps without even knowing we're being led. And something happens in and through us, in spite of us, as we go down this spiritual path. We start seeing things differently. When I'm writing inventory, what's coming on the paper is not coming from my thinking mind. I'm like, well, I wasn't thinking about this, so how is it on the paper? And see, I was willing to, whatever I wrote stayed on the paper. I didn't talk it away. I didn't cross it out. Because what I know about my mind, I don't want to bring my mind into a spiritual journey. This is not a threesome, me, my mind, and God. So I set aside every time my mind wanted me to be leery, wanted me to be questioning. I set it aside. And we put pen to paper, and I don't know about you, but I'm writing inventory, and for the first time, I'm seeing me and other people from an entirely different perspective, from a place of love, from a place, I think forgiveness starts in step 4, at least it did for me. I started to see that each and every one of us does the best that we can do on self-will. I get to see that I'm so busy getting mad at you that I don't see what I'm doing to me. I'm not loving me, but I want you to love me. How does that work? And so my first 5th step, the laundry list was so long, it rocked me. I had no idea this is who I had become, living life on self-will. I was humbled. See, I had to really stop looking at you and look at me and go, wow, Donna, this is you. And then I looked at some of the things about me that were of spiritual in nature. Trust me, the list wasn't long. But it gave me an opportunity to see what God's intention for me was, not who I had become without God. And so it didn't take anything but me seeing me. See, you might have been telling me about me all my life, but if you tell me, I think you're criticizing me, I think you're judging me. But when I'm seeing me, I'm humbled. Before we get to 6, we already have an idea of what this life is supposed to look like. We're supposed to be of service to people. It tells us when things are not going right, pick up the phone and call someone. That is repeated over and over and over again. Well, when I see my defects of character, that is going to interfere with me even wanting to care about you. And so now my desire to want to be free, by the time I get to step 6, I'm willing to say, you know what, God, if my purpose is to serve you so that I can be available to lead your children to you, these things are going to interfere greatly. Please take them. I use this analogy, and if you've heard it before, you're going to hear it again. So we've got these defects, and we're living life heavy, unhappy, convincing ourselves we're okay. I don't believe we were saved from the lash of alcohol and drugs just to live a life being okay. Somebody asks us how we're doing. I'm all right. Because I can't get past all right on my own. I can't get past that. So if I'm not relying on God, I convince myself that being okay is sufficient, which is another lie. So I've got these defects, and maybe those are the things that are keeping me just okay. And God says, let me take that from you. That was never my intention for you. That's what you became, living life separate from me. Let me take that and let me give you what you're going to need so you can be my trusted agent, my messenger. And so we discover spiritual principles, not just the words, because I didn't know a lot of the spiritual principles. I didn't know what they were, but we also get to feel them. We get to feel what compassion feels like. We get to feel what love feels like. I was on the train going to Coney Island, and there was a man. He didn't speak English. He was a Spanish man, and he had his 2 teenage adolescent boys with him. And we're getting to the last stop. Last stop on the train to Coney Island is the last stop. And I saw how excited this man was to take these boys to Coney Island. I saw the love in this man. And I tapped that. I was connected to that love, and I got off the train and I cried and I thanked God for allowing me to experience the love that man had for them boys. That's what starts to happen. You know, we have these experiences. God have all of me, good and bad, right? And so I do have experiences where I am impatient, where I'm angry. But see, today they serve a purpose. I get to see how harmful they are to me and others. I had an experience. I had a guy that was coming here every day to take care of my cats when I got my hip replaced, and I had the nerve to get into a heated argument with him because we had a disagreement and I wanted him to agree with me. And he said, you know, I got to go. And when he left, I felt it. I immediately called someone and I told on myself. I was so ashamed. It wasn't the anger, it was how I treated another human being. And then I got to see how the way I was treating me. Because this man could have easily said, you know what, Donna, I'm sorry, but I can't help you anymore. So my ego, who I thought was the great I am, the great protector, put me in harm's way because it needed to be right. Man, I was humbled by that. I think that's how God teaches us. It was Mary Thayer that says, you know, when we watch like that, we watch with God. And so I have such a profound respect for this man. Every time I see him, my approach with him is very loving. Everybody has the right to be right. Everybody has the right to be wrong, but we don't have the right to hurt one another. And so we live in this new life where it starts to make sense to me why I lived the life that I led. Because I believe we were chosen. We didn't enter the gates of insanity and death. Some people do, and they go straight home. But we were saved because there's a purpose for us. We've been chosen to lead God's children to God. That's simple. And I get to see the magic, the miracle of step 7 when we go back out into the world and we make amends. People that saw us being shifty, being shady, being unaccountable, they get to see that we have been changed. It says in the big book, they talk about how the change came over them. We don't change ourselves. I don't know what to change into. All I know is my same old okie doke, right? And so God demonstrates what accountability looks like, what sincerity looks like, what compassion looks like. He also uses us so that people can be free. See, I used to think that the only way I can be free is people had to apologize for what they did. But see, I'm one of the blessed ones, because nobody had to apologize for what they did, and I became free. But there's still some people that believe under the illusion that they're freedom and happiness is contingent on another human being apologizing. So maybe I can be used for them in that. You know, we give people an opportunity to let us know how what we did made them feel, and maybe it's a relief for them to finally let me know this is how I was hurt. And I stand there with God and I feel what it feels like to have a disregard for another human being. And I think about all the people that don't have the same freedom that I have because I've been able to be free, and they're still walking around with guilt and shame. Can I look at them with compassion and not hatred? What a blessing we get. And then I realize the only thing that's required of me is to be in position. That's it. To stay in the now. I love when people say they live in steps 10 and 11 because we start living in instead of outside in. And so my teacher before Mike was Gwen. And Gwen introduced me to 10, 6, and 7. See, I can't talk about 6 and 7 and the other steps because step 6 is I'm willing to give God all of me, all of my illusions, all of the things that I think I need to be okay, and trust to know that I have all that I have. And trust to know that as long as I'm willing to be one with God, I'm going to be okay. And there are times, being in this material world, that becomes a challenge. And all it means is I just lean in more. Because if I don't, my trust and faith in God is going to be tested. Early on, I said, God is everything. Is God everything when I worry about finances? Is God everything when I worry about health? Is God everything when I worry about whatever I worry about? I'm going to be tested. My faith is going to be tested time and time again. And what is it being tested with? The temptations of some old beliefs that I know are the lie. I'm going to be tested by, I'm going to be tempted to be worried again. I'm going to be tempted to be fear again, to be anxious again. And it's so easy to fall back into that trap because it's so damn familiar. It's so uncomfortable, but it's so familiar to sit in. But am I willing to go to any length and trust to experience some new uncomfortability and just sit in the stillness with God? I was sharing this today, and I even said to the people I was with today, I feel like the earlier today was the beginning of my 6 and 7 step talk. But when we learn how to ride a bike, when we learn how to roller skate, when we learn how to ballroom dance, when we learn how to do anything, we don't know it right away. We don't become experts at it right away, but we're willing to learn. So am I willing to learn how to be in this new life? It may be uncomfortable at first, but am I willing? You know, I was talking about fear today, and it says that we ask God to remove the fear and show us how to be. Well, there may be some times that's all you're doing all day long with the same fear. God, please remove the fear and show me how to be. Not what to do, but how to be. It's in the being that I do. And it says that we outgrow fear. So maybe I outgrow fear for a moment, maybe a couple of minutes, and that fear comes up again, and I pray again, the fear comes up, and I pray again. Because God's going to match that calamity with serenity. So if he's going to match it, I better keep coming to him. Match this, God, match this, Father, match this, Father, match this, because it's coming at me, and I know it's a lie today because I did the inventories. How free do you want to be? I have to always talk about step one. You know, Rashid would say it never gets more complicated than one. And every time I go through the work, I always do an unmanageability exercise and a powerlessness exercise so that I can see that perhaps the reason why I'm having some difficulty in my life is that I am managing some areas and I'm not giving all to God. And it can be so subtle. I'm quietly managing. I don't even see it. And it never gets more complicated than one. I'm powerless on my own. And step 7 is the beginning of the oneness with God. Me and God become one, and it's God living my life. And I realize that I never have been separated from God, but this mind that I have been relying upon makes me feel that I am not connected to you. I'm not connected to God, and I'm this entity. No wonder my foundation was so shaky, because I have been living life on the lie. I'm not alone. The icy intellectual mountain whose shadow I shivered, that's what it's like relying on self. I never felt comforted. I had 2 of the most powerful fit steps where I was rendered speechless. I did a fit step with Adrian, and I felt the warmness. Rico mentioned it last week, and I was there with him. I did my fit step with Adrian, and when it was done, a warmth washed over me. I have never felt so much love in my life. And I wanted so badly to let Adrian know what I was experiencing. And I can see him. He was in the kitchen making us something to eat. And I kept leaning back in. Because I didn't want to leave it. And I just leaned in and I let it play out. So I know the presence is real. These are the things that gave me the desire to continue to seek, that I get to a place that I'm willing to say God and I are one. I didn't know that was the result. I just thought I was going to do these steps, and I didn't even know what was supposed to happen. I know I was supposed to read the big book. I knew I needed to read the big book with somebody and take me through line by line. I was willing to do all the things. I knew when we got to agnostics, it told me where God was to be found. And I was willing to believe that. But then we get to experience it. And there are days, like these last couple of days, I am so conscious of leaning in. My entire day is spent leaning in, because there's a lot of things that I need, that need my attention. And on my own, it's overwhelming. On my own, I'm not going to want to get out of bed. On my own, I'm going to convince myself it's too much. I can't get it all done. Why bother? I shared with somebody yesterday everything that I was able to do, and I shocked myself. I'm like, you kidding me? I did all of that? See, it's real easy to be grateful. You know, we all do gratitude lists. I'm grateful, I'm grateful, I'm grateful. But where is God when life turns on a dime? And I don't know. Can I be okay and not know? Can I give all of my desires? I had an experience where that was really a deep experience for me. I asked myself, am I willing to let go of everything I think that I want in my life? Am I willing to let go? And if none of that happens, will I be okay? And I started crying because that was such an admission of letting go. And I realized, you know what? I trust God enough. I'm clear of my assignment. I know that my job is to be available where God needs me. And if I hold on to that, I'm going to be all right. I knew today was going to be a special share because 6 and 7 is all about relying upon God and being willing to die to self. And I knew that I can't fake 6 and 7. There's no way to fake this. There's no way to talk book knowledge. At least I don't know if there is a way to do that. So I prayed and asked God to please demonstrate yourself in and through me. Please let people see what we get to experience. Enable them to feel you through me. You know, I am at a place, and I'm sure a lot of you can identify after a share, when we're so vulnerable, because look at what we're doing when we're sharing. You know, I don't know how many people are here, but, you know, we're being honest, we're being vulnerable, we're being accountable, we're being helpful, we're being of service. Like, look at all this, the principles that we get to practice in a share. And I used to always wonder why after I shared, I would always feel uncomfortable and I would always start questioning. And then I realized because in a span of 10 minutes to 45 minutes, I had set self aside. And then after we share, self wants to once again get in first position. And it does what it does. It wants us to doubt ourselves. It wants us to lie. And so I don't listen to it today because I know that that's what it's doing. It's lying to me. So just think about what happens when you're sharing. It's all God. We're not, and somebody challenged me on this. I think that we're not like normal people, not just because of our obsession and our physical craving to alcohol and drugs. But normal people's lives don't depend on being of service clearly as deeply as ours does. I think some days I'm all day talking to people. And why do I do that? Because, see, I don't know whose spirit has been touched. My phone number is in my chat. I get phone calls a lot. And I believe it's my responsibility to talk to people and let them know what they experienced is real. The hope you feel is real. And see, I have a different perspective about hope too. People would say, well, don't get so hopeful. Wait, because, the check didn't come yet. No. I believe that we experience hope in any moment that hope appears. Because when hope appears, every bit of negativity gets sucked up. And maybe that's hope for me to get through that day. And maybe while I'm hopeful, you'll call me. And maybe you'll hear the hope in me that's supposed to give you hope. Maybe that gives me the hope when I'm sharing in the meeting. That's what you're going to feel. So I don't believe in you don't get hopeful and you wait until, that's my mind wanting everything to have proof, because it says that we recover from a hopeless state of mind and body. So damn it, embrace hope. When it comes, lean in it. Lean in it. I don't know how much time I have left. About enough time to wind it down. So I'm one of many messengers. I think I'm the fourth one. And each week there's going to be a new light. And there'll be some messengers that your spirit will resonate with more closely with others. We never know who is attracted to us, nor is it our business. We just have to be in position for God. That's all God's doing. We just have to show up. And I cannot show up if I'm in my head, living my life separate, holding on to fear and doubt and anger. God, please remove the things that block me from being of use. And, and sometimes, I may show up in a way that irritates you. Maybe I'm supposed to show up in a way to irritate you so you can practice compassion with me. We don't know. But I'm willing to be used. And I never thought I would say that, but I'm willing to die to self. So Purdy, thank you, my friend. And everybody, I know so many of you. What a delight. What an opportunity we have to pour out and to recognize that we have something to pour out, right? We're not enough. We're not insignificant. Look at what it took for you to get here, the pain, the misery, the despair, even that's lifted. And all we're left with is the identification so we can help somebody who's still suffering. How powerful is that? So, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your share. You were heard. Appreciate you and grateful for you here. I think let's all take a moment. My Creator, I am now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen. I'd like to hand back to Donna to please take us out with a prayer or reading of your choice. Thanks, Donna.
Okay. So I have a prayer that I say that came to mind that I thought was appropriate for now. Holy Presence, open my eyes to see my divine nature. Let your light shine in every corner of my soul, revealing the truth of who I am. I release illusions and embrace the wisdom of my heart. May I walk in clarity, love, and purpose as I step into the fullness of my being. Amen.